You're listening to 91.7 FM, WSUW, in Whitewater, Wisconsin. You're listening to WSUW 91.7 FM, The Edge in Whitewater, Wisconsin. This is Rashkin Report, and I'm your host, Yuri Rashkin. I'm excited to welcome to the program a highly unusual guest, Crazy Russian Dad. Crazy Russian Dad, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Спасибо.
It's a pleasure to see somebody with a Russian background that has a positive, if maybe perhaps a grumpy attitude towards life in America. And do you feel that you're breaking stereotypes, or are you affirming the stereotype of a crazy Russian?
That's a good question. I'd never considered that, to be honest with you. I just started this channel as sort of as a joke, almost on a bet, and then it rolled from there. And Crazy Russian Dad was like the first name I could think of. So
it's a great name.
Yeah, it was only later that I realized that there was Crazy Russian Hacker, who is like a real YouTuber with millions of subscribers, and people routinely write to me and say, "Are you his father?" And I have to disappoint them and say, "No, I'm not his father." And some people are very angry. One dude actually wrote to me and said, "No, I am his father, not you." And I said, "That's fine."
That's great. So now there's somebody else claiming to be a father of a celebrity. No, I think you're establishing your own voice in your own right. So, Crazy Russian Dad, you seem kind of, I don't know. What is your view of life in America, I guess? Let me put it this way. What do you think of life in America?
I think that's pretty existential. I think life everywhere is about the same, different decorations. I mean, that's sort of how I see it, I guess. I like it.
The way they don't seem to match very well. You point out certain things that exist here that don't exist over there. And
yeah, but I mean, I think these are little details, whether you smile at strangers or not, whether you, I don't know, ask somebody what they're doing this weekend or not. I don't know. I think these are little things. I mean, at our core, we're all, at least I think, since you're asking me, I think at our core, we're all, we're the same. We seek happiness and we avoid lack of it to the extent we can. And the rest is just sort of cultural stuff.
And it's all in how you look at it. Is it a small thing or is it a big thing? Is the fact that there's no Groundhog Day in Russia, is it a small little thing or a big thing? Incidentally, I just read in the Russian website, I think hopefully it's real news because, well, I don't know, but the groundhog that was supposedly doing this in St. Petersburg has died.
Oy vey, I'm sorry, my condolences.
So how meaningful to you are holidays like Groundhog Day or Thanksgiving or Christmas for that matter and New Year's? It's such a mess with Russians. People get confused.
Oh, that's a good point. I think of all the holidays of my, new motherland, I guess here in the States, I can get into Thanksgiving the most because it's sort of like, you eat. It's like Passover, but with more food and it's less regimented. I guess, Groundhog Day, I don't know. I think that's fun. I like the movie. But generally, I try to be respectful. Christmas is awesome. I like it. I'm Jewish. I don't celebrate it per se, but I like it. I covet it from afar. I like the lights. And so, yeah.
Have you been in the United States for a long time?
I have been in the United States for a long time, yeah.
And you get used to certain things, and Russian holidays are changing too. They keep celebrating different things as well, it seems.
So they tell me. Supposedly even Valentine's Day is now in Russia. So I what do I know? I mean, everything I knew was still in the Soviet Union. So, which is why people sometimes write to me and say, "Well, you're bad-mouthing, you're bad patriot." And I say, "Listen, I'm comparing it to that which does not exist anymore. But that's what I remember because that's what it was when I was still living there."
So people are calling you a bad patriot of Russia now because you're comparing things to the country that doesn't exist.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody, but every now and again someone sees one of those USA versus Russia videos that I have, and they well, we're not that bad, and if I make fun of anyone, I make fun of me, but it's all, people are, it's up to them how they perceive it, of course, and so often they would say, stop with this stereotyping of Russia, so.
Well, and I'll tell you from my experience, having also left Soviet Union, not Russian Federation or anything, but specifically Soviet Union, as a teenager and coming, to the West and being exposed to capitalism and all its wonders of late 80s was confusing. And to some extent, I feel like I was inoculated against certain things by being in Soviet Union. Seeing advertisements of something being 1999, my mind just wonders, like, why not 20? But
Yeah, I have a funny story of my own about advertising. I think after, you develop a certain blindness for ads, at least I think most of us, because otherwise we go nuts. I'm sure at some subliminal, subconscious level they still work. But here in the States, I think I'm kind of ignoring it most of the time. And then I remember for the first time I went actually back to what was already Russia, not Soviet Union. And I saw ads and billboards and signs and all of that stuff there, right? And I could not ignore it just because it was in my own native, все было по-русски, it was in my native language. By the end of the day, my head was, I think, the size of a house, and I was still replaying about underwear and about new drink and about the restaurant and about everything I saw that day. Everything seemed highly meaningful to me because apparently your brain, at least my brain, only worked to ignore it in English, apparently.
it wasn't quite desensitized yet to the Russian version.
No, that's right.
Okay, so you mentioned the word motherland, and I was kind of curious about that because Russians have a very strong concept of either homeland or motherland. It's really, really a big concept that I think Americans sometimes fail to grasp the size and the meaning of it. To me, it always seemed like, it's a way to get people organized, and so I prefer the term home. Where's your homeland is one thing, like that's where you were in the beginning, but where's your home now? Where do you live? And I think that's, how do you translate those terms and how do you deal with those concepts?
Oh, that's above my pay grade. I leave it to philosophers. And
isn't a comedian a philosopher in a way? You have to take a look at life.
I guess so. The United States is my home now. I have great respect for my historical motherland as well, and that's just how I roll.
Nice. So let me take a look at this. First of all, I should reset. You're listening to WSUW 91.7 FM, The Edge in Whitewater, Wisconsin. This is Rashkin Report. I'm your host, Yuri Rashkin. Joining me on the program is Crazy Russian Dad from Massachusetts. You're in Massachusetts, am I correct?
Yeah. Yes, that is correct.
And so Massachusetts is cold, and Wisconsin is, pretty cold as well. Russia is cold. Do you feel at home?
I think so. Yes, I think I feel at home. This winter is not cold enough, if you ask me.
And do people tell you that you should be fine in cold weather because you came from cold weather?
Oh yes, absolutely. I mean, all the basic Russian stereotypes that we love to hate are all alive, or they wouldn't be stereotypes. Vodka and bears and cold and chess and whatever. I don't know. I personally, was a member of Communist Party, and all of those, they are still alive, and I get a chuckle of that when I meet people.
Wow. And, because so then the next not logical question, do you feel that you could, a Russian could outdrink a Wisconsinite or a person from Massachusetts? How do Americans hold their liquor in comparison to Russian, do you feel?
I defy that stereotype. I don't drink much, so I don't get into competitions with anybody. Therefore, I'll take the fifth, as they say, on this question.
Well, that's the size of a bottle, right?
Maybe.
My understanding, actually in Wisconsin, we take drinking so seriously. There's a T-shirts that are popular out. They say "Drink Wisconsibly." That is the extent to which we consume alcohol over here. This is the wettest state, actually. So
I have
I don't know how that would compare to Russia, because when I left, I was not old enough to drink either. So, different things. So, do you feel that, I guess, what I would like to understand, sir, is that you say you are crazy Russian dad. I would imagine you arrived at this conclusion because you looked around, or or somebody told you that why crazy? Is it the haircut? Is it, or is it Americans that are crazy? And I know maybe I'm getting philosophical once again, but, you seem pretty reasonable to me.
I don't think I'm clinically insane. I mean, if that's what you're asking, at least I hope not. I'm sorry to sort of to demystify and take myself off of some pedestal. I think I started this channel, as you may or may not know, on a bet with one of my kids, and so I just sort of created it all. Or at least started like over the weekend, and Crazy Russian Dad was sort of the first thing I came up with. I don't think I'm crazy, even though my kids would disagree, but I am Russian, or yes, everybody sort of is seen as Russian, whether they're Jews or Armenians or whatever. And I am a dad, and at first I thought that would be my kind of the credo, I guess. I will talk about homework, and I'll talk about all these things that fathers talk about, right? Are you still there, by the way?
Oh, yes.
Oh, good. And then after about 3 videos, I realized I think I've said all I had to say on this, so which kind of sucked. But then I realized that I had this realization that some people didn't care much about what I was talking about. They just wanted to hear it, so I tried kind of quote unquote live blogging, and that was more interesting. And the name stuck. I don't think I'm particularly crazy, but that's the name. Why is Google? I don't know.
Good. That's a deep question that we can Google and find out. So you are not clinically crazy. I think that is a relief. That is a relief to know that that this is something, So then, in that case, what do you feel your audience wants to see, wants to hear? Why are they fans? Is it just your voice, or is it your perspective, or is it the live vlogging? What feedback do you get from your audience?
That is interesting. That is a good question. I think I probably have a couple of answers to that. So one is, one is sort of obvious. The other less so, in my opinion, at least. So one is, I think there are some people who are genuinely interested in, in Russian culture, or at least sort of how it is perceived here in America, right? So number of people who write to me will say I was adopted, and just even hearing your accent, it kind of helps fill the hole in my heart. I mean, that is what they're practically saying, and I kind of cherish those because I want to be gentle. I mean, I'm not Oprah exactly, right? So I try to kind of say, well, if that's what it does for you, great. I'm not clinically insane, but I'm also not a psychologist or therapist to help people. But yet there is that angle. The other, I think, as I was doing kind of research of my own, looking at YouTubers and all of that, I found that some were very interesting. At least to me, they were hot, or they were, unique somehow, or good looking, or they had great gifts, playing musical instruments. And others were not at all, as far as I was concerned, at least. I thought, there was nothing special. Some lady in the basement who is talking about, I bought this new shirt and it's pink and whatever. And there would be hundreds of thousands of people who would say, oh my God, Natasha, you're just I love you, you're a member of my family. So, which brought me to a realization, or at least a hypothesis, that I think each one of us probably, if they could broadcast themselves, would find an audience of people who will find them fascinating just for who they are. You probably have a huge audience, but even mortals who don't have radio stations can find their own audience. Justin Bieber would have much bigger audience than a mere mortal, but still, there are some people who would find anyone out there fascinating, and the question is, can you find them? I think that's how I see it.
So it's just a matter of, can you find that person that reflects, that entertains you and connects with you, and you can connect with? Can you make that connection? And well, Google so far and YouTube is going a long way of finding a lot of interesting people out there.
Yeah, I think technology in that regard. I mean, we like to complain about it and all that, but like, here's somebody like me who can, make a little video on my way to work and become a YouTuber. Granted, I'm not like making money or anything, but I have my little place somewhere there in the digital sphere, and I think that's exciting. And if it helps somebody or entertains somebody, I think that's great.
Do you turn up your Russian accent when you do your videos? Why?
I mean, everybody has accent, and I have mine, so that's just how it is.
Awesome. Crazy Russian Dad, thank you for being in the program. If people want to learn more about you, how can they find you?
You can find me on social media, facebook.com/Crazy Russian Dad.
Thank you so much for being on Rashkin Report.
Thank you. Anytime.
You're listening to 91.7 FM, WSUW, in Whitewater, Wisconsin. You're listening to Rashkin Report.